The world needs the next Iron Man.
What is going on, guys? It's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at CinemaBlend, and we are into Spider-Man Far From Home week, and of course we have to talk about the ending and the mid-credits sequence. Hopefully you guys have gone out to go see the new sequel, and if you haven't yet, get out now because we're going to reveal the ending of the new, highly anticipated Spider-Man movie. So bail, for real, get out. I'm going to get into all sorts of spoilers and basically ruin the movie for you. For everyone who has seen it, we're going to get into it. Go down, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. Every time we post a video like this here at CinemaBlend's YouTube page, you guys will be the first ones to hear about it. So the ending basically begins with Peter and MJ and the rest of their classmates coming back from their European trip. And it's kind of interesting in this sense because the ending feeds right into the mid-credit sequence. Granted, they're separated by a few lines of credits. But what happens is Peter confronts Happy Hogan and his Aunt May about their relationship. They're a little bit confused about what their status is. May thinks that it was just a summer fling. Happy thinks it's developing into something else. Peter can't be bothered because he has a date of his own. He's going out with MJ. He's in his Spider-Man suit, the brand new red and black one, which looks amazing, and he's swinging through New York City. And for die-hard Spider-Man fans like myself, I'm a rabid Spider-Man fan, we have been patiently waiting for the moment when MCU Spider-Man will finally be in Manhattan. New York City and Spider-Man go hand in hand, and for most of Homecoming, and of course for this European jaunt through Far From Home, Spider-Man has been in either Queens or locations throughout Europe. Well, now he's back home in New York City where he belongs. He meets up with MJ and he decides to take her for a swing all the way through the city. They go through a few blocks, the movie ends, we go into the end credits, but when the mid-credit sequence, the very first one, picks up, we're still in the middle of that swing between Peter and MJ. It's really sweet. She's totally scared. She's kind of burying her face in his shoulder, doesn't want to look. There are moments through the course of Peter swinging where he's taking photographs of himself with his phone, which I think is a bit of a nod to the fact that Peter Parker in the comics has always been a photographer. He may, in fact, he used to work as a photographer for the Daily Bugle, and that's how he used to make all of his money, is selling photographs of Peter Parker. So I noticed that Spider-Man was snapping photos of himself as he's swinging, and I thought, oh, that's a nice nod to the fact that he's a photographer, but we haven't heard about the Daily Bugle yet. He lands and tells MJ, all right, I guess I better get going. She tells him to be safe. He jumps up to the top of a light post, and before he can actually swing away, a news broadcast comes up on a large screen on the side of a building. It's a news report of footage from the final moments of Mysterio, who, again, the world up till this point still believes is a hero from the multiverse. And Mysterio has recorded a video that he's manipulated very clearly to show in the event of his death that frames Spider-Man for the activities in London and makes it sound like Peter was the one who had initiated all of the drones that were attacking. And at the very end of the clip, it's Mysterio revealing that Spider-Man is Peter.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
But it's the person who delivers that message that had everybody in our theater screaming at the top of their lungs, because it's J. Jonah Jameson, who is back in a new form for the working for the dailybugle.net. Not quite a newspaper, sounds like it's going to be a website media, but the best part is that he's played by J.K. Simmons, the legendary actor who played J. Jonah Jameson in the first 3 Sam Raimi films. It's a great tribute to not just the old Raimi films, but a way to bring J. Jonah Jameson into the MCU. I think that this means that Simmons will be back for future Spider-Man movies. I really, really hope this shouldn't just be a small Easter egg that they include. This should be the setup for more of J. Jonah Jameson making life very difficult for Peter Parker. But of course, the takeaway is that Spider-Man's secret identity is completely out for the world now.
What just happened?
A lot to unpack in the very first mid-credit sequence, but the reintroduction of J. Jonah Jameson, the fact that they held onto this J.K. Simmons cameo, which is just so brilliant, and this mega twist that Spider-Man's identity is now out there for the rest of the world, is, to me, three extremely exciting avenues for the Spider-Man movies to go down in the MCU moving forward. Before we move on, let's talk about Mysterio briefly, because it looks like he dies at the end of the film, and yet I don't necessarily believe that that's the case for two different reasons. One, Mysterio is a master of illusion, and just about everything that he tells us in this movie and in general as Mysterio ends up being a lie. There's also something about what he says at the very end of the movie, which is the fact that people need to believe in something, and most people will believe everything you tell them. That's not verbatim, but that's the sense of that, like, people will essentially believe whatever I sort of put in front of them, and he's putting in front of Peter the fact that he's dying. Now, Peter does put on the Edith glasses and ask her if what he's watching is real, and she says something very specific to the point that there are no illusions open right now, but that doesn't mean that Mysterio, Quentin Beck, didn't figure out some way to potentially fake his death. The second reason why I kind of believe this is because if you're the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you don't hire Jake Gyllenhaal and give him an origin story for Mysterio and then swipe him away. Because specifically, and not saying that they're going to build to a Sinister Six movie, although a lot of people seem to want to see a Spider-Man Sinister Six movie, which is 6 major villains teaming up to take Spider-Man down. But you have Michael Keaton, and you've placed him in prison at the end of Homecoming. When he got to prison in the mid-credit sequence of Homecoming, he meets up with the guy who is eventually going to become Scorpion, played by Michael Mando. Now you have Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. There is a Shocker out there too, so that's 4 villains that you could bring back. You introduce 2 more, and you have yourself a potential Sinister Six. But again, I think in addition to introducing new villains for the 3rd potential Spider-Man movie, Peter really has to deal with the fact that his identity is out there.
Hey! You're that Spider guy on YouTube, right? Call me Spider-Man! Okay, Spider-Man!
The J. Jonah Jameson reveal is not the biggest surprise in the end credits. There was one more doozy that they kept for the very, very end. And this one's a bit more of a punchline, but it also makes you look at everything that happened in Far From Home from a completely different angle, because it is revealed that Nick Fury and Maria Hill were not actually Nick Fury and Maria Hill over the course of the entire film. It was actually Talos, the shape-shifting Skrull from Captain Marvel, played by Ben Mendelsohn, who was pretending to be Nick Fury.
I think Nick Fury just hijacked our summer vacation.
Awesome!
The takeaway is that Nick Fury, after the events of Endgame, needed a vacation as badly as Peter Parker needed a vacation, and he just disappeared in outer space aboard a Skrull ship and decided to get offline for a little while. So he gave the glasses that Tony wanted to leave for Peter to Talos and said, look, deliver these to Peter Parker.
Oh my god.
And Talos tried to do that, but in the course of delivering these glasses to him, the Elementals arrived, Jake Gyllenhaal arrived, and essentially threw a wrinkle into Talos' very easy plan of just turn these glasses over to Peter Parker and be done with it. And it is very interesting to watch the movie from a second point of view, because the first time that we see Nick Fury is in the opening scene of the movie, which is the investigation into the Mexico appearance. And now that I listen to the dialogue, Maria Hill's character is essentially saying to Nick Fury, who is Talos, this isn't our mission. Like, why are we here? Why are we looking at this? And Talos is kind of like, well, there was a cyclone with a face and we should probably look into it. So you can go back and watch Far From Home a second time and really pay attention to things that Nick Fury and Maria Hill do or say, and know that they are Skrulls, and you are a little bit more in on the joke. It doesn't change the plot necessarily. What it might do is sort of reinforce the fact that the Skrulls can very easily take over the identities of people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I know a lot of fans are looking forward to a potential secret invasion storyline, which is where Skrulls pretend to be major heroes in the MCU, people like Captain America or Tony Stark, and infiltrate different places. But for now, the Skrulls are a positive force and working for the side of Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. or whoever organization Nick Fury is part of at this point now. So the last scene was a bit of a joke, an inside nod of, hey, everything you sort of watch is deception. And the overall part of this movie, with Mysterio being the villain, is that everything you're watching is kind of a deception. So it's like a joke within a joke within a joke. I didn't necessarily need it as much. I loved the first mid-credit sequence, but the last one, it's a decent punchline.
Okay, I get it. We're all a little on edge here.
I'm not trying to exaggerate when I tell you that the first mid-credit sequence with the introduction of J. Jonah Jameson now ranks as my all-time favorite mid-credit scene in any of the MCU movies. I just loved seeing that character back, and it feels like Spider-Man is finally Spider-Man and ready to go off on his adventures in New York City being the wall crawler that we know. But I want to hear what you guys thought about the end credit sequences and the ending of Spider-Man Far From Home. So go down to the comment section, tell me what you thought about the scenes. Did you like them? What you didn't like about them? I want to hear from you guys right now. And of course, while you're down there, go down, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because we're posting videos like this all of the time, and as soon as they go up, you guys want to hear about them, and that's the way to get it done.
You got gifts, Parker, but you have a job to do. Are you going to step up or not?
You're all alone. Your friends are in trouble. What are you going to do about it?